Teachers often work in isolation, which is why a group of us felt the need to form a learning community of reflective practitioners, or L-Core as we call it. We felt the need as teachers for our voices to be heard. And so our motto is to go from whispers to resonance. This is a group of teachers who took the course offered by Thinking Teacher titled Reflective Writing for Teachers. And from the 5 batches which took it in 2020, 18 of them opted to form this community of reflective practitioners. And in this program, we meet for 1.5 hours every week to discuss different issues. And here are short clips which try to capture the gist of these discussions so that you as a teacher can enjoy our discussion and maybe use these as a trigger to start your own in your own environment. So welcome and good evening. We will start. It's 4:31.
Yes.
We have something planned for today. Lalita has been made the co-host today. She's going to share something very interesting.
Hello, everyone. And this is a small case study. And this was an observation that I made in the last 1 month during my virtual rounds. Pranav is in 7th standard and he's an intelligent boy. He lacks confidence while reading aloud. During online classes, whenever the teacher would call out his name for some activity, he would just log off or he would turn his video off. And this several times, teachers had observed, and then they had mentioned that many students do this. But then this boy, whenever we had asked him to read something, he would do this and say that he had internet problem, he had bandwidth problem. And I just realized on virtual rounds, it happened continuously for 2 to 3 times. And then I said, let me look into this issue. And then I just did it with a little intervention and also a genuine follow-up work. So the next day when I visited the class, I just told Pranav, why don't you send me an audio clipping? Just read whatever you want and send a small video clipping at one particular time. I just gave him 5 o'clock. And the next day, he did not send any audio recording. Maybe he discussed with his mother, but then he did not record anything. Then suddenly at 10 p.m., I see a message along with the audio recording. After listening to it, I insisted that he sends the assignment at 5 p.m. as I suggested in the online class, and then later the recording started reaching every evening, not exactly at 5, but around 5:30. I quickly noticed that Pranav had gained confidence in reading. This was just in the 3rd and 4th day. His vocabulary also had improved. By the 6th day, he was able to read very clearly. A small intervention can do magic. So what exactly happened? Is it an intervention or is it just an intervention? It is an instructional intervention, which is a program or a set of steps to help students improve in certain tasks that they struggle with. And these interventions, they focus on subject like reading or math. We can also design them to track the progress. So here are a few samples of Pranav's reading. Please listen to this audio. This was on 2nd day.
Yes. Good evening, ma'am. I'll start reading Leg Trap. Dheera was a shoe-shining boy. He lost his father when he was very young and lived with his mother and sister. He was a hard-working boy. After school, he would sit near a cinema hall and polish shoes for a living. One day it was very hot. Dheera sat under a tree counting his day's earning and humming a popular tune. I'll start reading Nest with Grandparents. Amma, why are you removing all my things from the cupboard? Anjali asked in a voice that sounded like she was ready for a fight. You already know, Anjali. Dada and Dadi need some place for keeping their things. Her mother replied. Good morning, ma'am. I am grateful to you because you have changed me with your kind words. Thank you, ma'am, for changing my attitude and help me overcome my laziness and help me improve reading. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
So what exactly is interventional or instructional intervention? And how did it happen? Why did I do this? Now, this can be intentional or it can be specific, and we can formalize it. And when it is intentional, now here my intention was only to help Pranav read well. And I had also specifically formalized this because I wanted to follow him for 10 days. So there was a follow-up work done. So I've used a combination of intentional and being specific.
So I think she's throwing it open now for questions and answers. If you have any questions to ask her before you all go into small breakout rooms for a small group discussion.
Lalita, I love this. I wish that I had also had done this because I was taking a small little course with children, and the same thing happened to me several times. So, although I kept wondering, is this what happens in these classes? Because I hadn't used the digital medium. So is this what children do? How do you set it right? And you have given me a wonderful way of setting it right. The most important thing that you have done is build the confidence of the child and show the child that someone is interested in.
I have a question. How did the child learn to speak, read so much better than what he did earlier? Practice is one thing, sending a recording is one thing, but his accent and pronunciation also changed.
Yes. The second day, the first recording, when I received at 10 o'clock, next day morning, I sent it to his English teacher. And I just asked her, can you guess? In fact, I have the message, I've saved it. I asked her, can you guess who this child is? She gave me 6 names. I said, no. But I didn't reveal who the child was. Then she came to me after the class and asked me, ma'am, I want to know who the child is. I said, no, you have to find out. I'm going to send you more recordings and you have to find out. I also did a little homework, from the parent side. I believe father, when this happened, father is at home, father is a lecturer. So father was in hall and he was taking class. He heard me tell Pranav's name several times. And it seems he walked into the room and he asked, why is your name coming so many times today in the class? And when his wife who's working, when she came, they had a discussion. So wife told him, since you're there all the time at home, so you have to do something about this. So both father and child together have done this project. And I had to send this entire recording to the mother. After all the 10 days was over, I sent it to her. So this was a lot of trial. He has tried to do a little artificial accent because he comes from a pure Kannada, that pure Gauda background. But this is not how he speaks. Suppose if I strike a dialogue with him, he doesn't speak like this. But this is only for the recording. Probably also to impress, and he wants to do his task. And now this is how he speaks. After 15 days, if I talk to him, his video is on. And that's what the teachers also say, that, there's a lot of change, not just he, there are some 4-5 students whose videos would always be muted, they also have kept the video on.
Thanks, Lilith.
Okay. So my question was, when he said towards the end of this process, thank you, ma'am, for changing my attitude and helping me overcome my laziness. I was just wondering if that, it came with any kind of messaging that the child had received earlier. Did any teacher tell him that he was lazy, that he needed to change his attitude? How does a child internalize the fact that he is lazy and that he needs an attitude change?
This is a trick that we all use, at least what I do, whenever, let's say on my round, suppose this is real time, not during virtual, when children would be in the school. Suppose I give them, I shouted them in the second, third period. I make sure I meet the child, I bring the child to my room and I say, see, you're a very smart boy, but you're just a little lazy. You have this casual attitude. If you really do well, you can excel. So before the bell rings and the child goes home, I see that I do little patching. Next day morning, suppose if I'm standing outside or I meet him on the corridors, this is the first child who will wish me. Maybe something like this has happened in the previous class, Pranav, you're lazy, you can do better, or you're just casual, you're laid back. These are some of the mantras, that teachers use. We don't tell them, you're not capable, you've not been doing your work. So that he himself knows that maybe, he's a little lazy.
So. Thank you. So Lalita, shall I allow you to finish your presentation?
Yes.
Yeah, so now you're going to take some questions in small groups.
So these are some of the questions, and let's discuss and come back.
Anyway, the first question is, why did this technique work?
I feel that it worked because of the fact that the effort was taken to recognize it and the follow-up was done.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I think also because the parents took a hand in it.
Yes.
So probably with both the effort of the principal as well as the interest shown by the principal as well as that help given by the parent helped.
Okay, in most of the cases, because of lack of time, because of other commitments, the educator must, they at times they don't get the time also to follow up. So there again, it, creates a gap.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And also another obstacle could be not having parents who are, let's say, tech savvy, who are not educated themselves, to be able to take this learning forward at home. What do you do in a situation where the child is, let's say, a first generation school goer, right? In this case, the boy's father himself was a teacher, right? I think that's what I thought.
Yeah,
heard.
Father was a professor.
So maybe it
Father
was also his teachers. Yeah. So it was the teacher's instinct and the ego and everything that was also playing out in this case.
अगर हम जैसा कि ललिता ने बताया कि वो कोई भी टीचर जो थे उनके वो अंत में बच्चे से अलग से बात नहीं कर रहे थे। जैसे हम लोग के साथ होता क्या है कि कोई बच्चा कोई काम नहीं करता है तो हम उसको अलग से भी अप्रोच करते हैं, लेकिन ललिता के केस में उसके सारे टीचर्स थी, वो लोग बोलते थे कि नहीं हमारे पास टाइम नहीं, हमने बात ही नहीं किया, तो ये यहाँ पे गड़बड़ हो रही थी।
Okay, so maybe that part is missing.
हाँ, वो हम लोग 5 मिनट लास्ट वाला रखते हैं ना, अलग से बुला के कोने में ले जाके,
और ज्यादा टाइम भी नहीं चाहिए उसके लिए, 1-2 शब्द बोलो, वो काफी होता है। You don't have to spend lot of time with each child. Actually, it takes less time than you think it is going to take.
Correct. And it works like anything, क्योंकि
it really works. It really works.
Yeah. उसको बच्चे को सिर्फ बोलना पड़ता है कि तुम इतना अच्छा कर रहे थे, क्या हुआ तुमको, जल्दी से करके दो कल, मतलब कुछ मोटिवेट करने के लिए। तो बच्चे, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि वो वहाँ पे टीचर्स नहीं कर रहे थे।
So welcome back everyone. How was your discussion? Anything you want to share with Lalita?
Yeah, one thing we were sharing, and then in between we had to leave the room out. So basically, like, we were talking about how, as a principal, you could make that connection and everything. And see, why didn't occur to the teacher when Nirajaka questioned? So I wanted to share this. See, basically, like, no, when I don't know, for some reason, when you're put as a class teacher or when you're responsible for a few students, naturally there is a kind of this, some, I don't know whether I should call it as a possessiveness or certain or entanglement. So we always do it with certain, what is it? My students should do well, I should do well. This kind of, that little tension is always there.
It's
But
not
as a
structured.
as a third person, you don't have that. You don't have that, whether it is my child or my class child or your class child. You are seeing a larger good. Okay, the children are here. I like, one child is not able to do, or the one child is struggling a bit. So what do I do? So ideas may spark immediately, in that situation. But when you're already in that situation where you're worrying about why he is not doing, why she is not doing, ideas are not coming. So you have to kind of, distance yourself a little bit, say,
Very nice. Beautiful
right?
point. Thank you.
So
That's a beautiful
then
point.
ideas come. Then ideas come. Right? That's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Beautiful. So how can the principal enable the teacher to detach a little bit? Come out of that hole she's sitting in. You have to finish, have to finish, have to finish. How can the principal gently disengage the teacher from the grip of that? Then maybe ideas will come to the teacher. Very nice.
And this we always notice, Ganga. Even when you raise a small concern or complain about a child, the class teacher will say, "No, ma'am, he's never like that in my class."
Yeah, true.
Ma'am, he's never in my class. And the teacher will also justify, "Ma'am, you can come, you just turn off your video and watch him, or you just log in from some other number and watch him. He's never like that." Only when some teachers, they say they are not strict, or they're not able to handle.
Now, this is something that we've tried in our school, and it has kind of helped us when we find that children are not meeting the grade level requirement in terms of their reading skills. We do have a lot of children in 4th, 5th, and 6th, or even from first standard across, where they have a huge learning gap and they are not able to read their level textbook. So what we have done in such cases is, we have brought those children to school on Saturday, or it could have been on, like when they have those other curricular activities. At that point of time, we have taken these children out of the classroom and we have sent them to kindergarten teachers. The kindergarten teachers have started right from the phonetic basics, and then we've used textbooks right from first standard and started with that level, and then gradually increase the level, as they were able to show some kind of an improvement. So this is one kind of intervention that we have done, where we felt that the reading level was not up to the mark and children were not able to do well because their reading level was not up to the mark. And again, these are children where we were not getting much of home support. That is one. So again, in Lalita's case, I felt that they were able to bring that shift because the parents themselves were a big catalyst and enablers.
So first, can we all thank Lalita for her presentation? Thank you, Lalita. And you've set us all thinking, as you can see. So what I wanted to share with you all was, she says a standing ovation. Okay, you're getting a standing ovation, Lalita. What I wanted to share with you all was something quite different. As usual, I like to connect to some reading, and I'm connecting to a chapter from Helen Keller's autobiography, which most of you must have read. But this is a chapter which is not so well known. Everybody has, after the movie Black especially, everybody knows the story of how Helen Keller learned her first word, water, right? But here is the chapter of Helen Keller learning the first abstract word. And abstract words are very difficult to teach children who can see, hear, and speak. How much more difficult they must be to teach a child who cannot see, hear, or speak. but just, it's a very short chapter, and I'm going to read it out to you, and then we will close for the day. I had now the key to all language, and I was eager to learn to use it. Children who hear acquire language without any particular effort. The words that fall from others' lips, they catch on the wing, as it were, delightedly, while the little deaf child must trap them by a slow and often painful process. But whatever the process, the result is wonderful. Gradually, from naming an object, we advance step by step until we have traversed the vast distance between our first stammered syllable and the sweep of thought in a line of Shakespeare. At first, when my teacher told me about a new thing, I asked very few questions. My ideas were vague and my vocabulary was inadequate. But as my knowledge of things grew and I learned more and more words, my field of inquiry broadened. And I would return again and again to the same subject, eager for further information. Sometimes a new word revived an image that some earlier experience had engraved on my brain. I remember the morning that I first asked the meaning of the word love. This was before I knew many words. I had found a few early violets in the garden and brought them to my teacher. She tried to kiss me, but at that time I did not like to have anyone kiss me, except my mother. Miss Sullivan put her arm gently around me and spelled into my hand, I love Helen. What is love? I asked. She drew me closer to her and said, it is here, pointing to my heart, whose beats I was conscious of for the first time. Her words puzzled me very much because I did not then understand anything unless I touched it. I smelt the violets in her hand and asked, half in words, half in signs, a question which meant, is love the sweetness of flowers? No, said my teacher. Again I thought. The warm sun was shining on us. Is this not love? I asked, pointing in the direction from which the heat came. Is this not love? It seemed to me that there could be nothing more beautiful than the sun, whose warmth makes all things grow. But Miss Sullivan shook her head, and I was greatly puzzled and disappointed. I thought it strange that my teacher could not show me love. A day or two afterward, I was stringing beads of different sizes in symmetrical groups, 2 large beads, 3 small ones, and so on. I had made many mistakes, and Miss Sullivan had pointed them out again and again with gentle patience. Finally, I noticed a very obvious error in the sequence, and for an instant, I concentrated my attention on the lesson and tried to think how I should have arranged the beads. Miss Sullivan touched my forehead and spelled with decided emphasis T-H-I-N-K. In a flash, I knew that the word was the name of the process that was going on in my head. This was my first conscious perception of an abstract idea. For a long time, I was still. I was not thinking of the beads in my lap, but trying to find a meaning for love in the light of this new idea. The sun had been under a cloud all day, and there had been brief showers. Suddenly the sun broke forth in all its southern splendor. Again I asked my teacher, is this not love? Love is something like the clouds that were in the sky before the sun came out, she replied. Then in simpler words than these, which at that time I could not have understood, she explained, you cannot touch the clouds, you know, but you feel the rain and know how glad the flowers and the thirsty earth are to have it after a hot day. You cannot touch love either, but you feel the sweetness that it pours into everything. Without love, you would not be happy or want to play. The beautiful truth burst upon my mind. I felt there were invisible lines stretched between my spirit and the spirits of others. From the beginning of my education, Miss Sullivan made it a practice to speak to me as she would speak to any hearing child. The only difference was that she spelled the sentences into my hand instead of speaking them. If I did not know the words and idioms necessary to express my thoughts, she supplied them, even suggesting conversation when I was unable to keep up my end of the dialogue. This process was continued for several years, for the deaf child does not learn in a month or even in 2 or 3 years, the numberless idioms and expressions used in the simplest daily intercourse. The little hearing child learns these from constant repetition and imitation. The conversation he hears in his home stimulates his mind and suggests topics and calls forth the spontaneous expression of his own thoughts. This natural exchange of ideas is denied to the deaf child. My teacher, realizing this, determined to supply the kinds of stimulus I lacked. This she did by repeating to me as far as possible verbatim what she heard, and by showing me how I could take part in the conversation. But it was a long time before I ventured to take the initiative, and still longer before I could find something appropriate to say at the right time. The deaf and the blind find it very difficult to acquire the amenities of conversation. How much more this difficulty must be augmented in the case of those who are both deaf and blind. They cannot distinguish the tone of the voice, or without assistance go up and down the gamut of tones that give significance to words, nor can they watch the expression of the speaker's face, and a look is often the very soul of what one says. So this is this week's Miro board. There are 3 little questions in the end, and this file will be shared both over email as an attachment, and it's also there on the Miro board. So that's where we are. Yes, are we ready to close? Can we call it a day?
Thank you everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So here was a session where teachers, as you saw, first heard a case study of how a boy was motivated to be a good reader in just a matter of 6 to 10 sessions. And reading from the autobiography of Helen Keller, which provoked rich online discussion, which we are unable to show due to the length of this clip. But there was a very rich discussion following this session on what motivated Helen to ask the question that she did about the abstract word, and how did her teacher grab the opportunity when the moment was ripe to teach her the abstract words think and love. So you have here a clip which maybe you could use in your school to conduct a similar discussion, because there are discussion questions right after the case study, and there are discussion questions right after the chapter from Helen Keller's autobiography. We hope to bring you another episode soon.